The city smelled different before sunrise. Less perfume, more truth. Garbage trucks growled down empty streets, lights blinking like tired eyes. Storefronts were dark, their reflections stretching across puddles left by last night's rain. On the steps of an old public library, Daniel Moore sat with his hands wrapped around a paper cup, waiting for it to cool enough to drink. He used to arrive in this part of town only in passing, windows up, music low, mind already somewhere else. Daniel had spent most of his life winning quietly. He was a senior operations director for a national logistics company, the kind of man who fixed problems before anyone noticed they existed. He didn't chase attention. He let results speak for him. Promotions came steadily. Money followed. Respect too. At 49, he lived alone in a house that felt more like a showroom than a home, every room carefully arranged, rarely used. People assumed he liked it that way. The truth was simpler and sadder. Daniel didn't know how to stop moving long enough to feel anything. Work gave him structure. Control. A reason not to think about the space where a family should have been. His marriage ended years earlier, not because of anger, but neglect. His ex-wife once told him he was dependable but unreachable, like a locked door that never opened even when you knocked politely. Daniel accepted that verdict and went back to work. The mistake that ended his career didn't look like one at first. It was a cost-cutting decision passed down from above, something he was told to implement without delay. Routes shortened. Rest hours reduced. Safety margins tightened just enough to increase profits. Daniel knew it was risky. He also knew refusing would end his position anyway. He told himself the system would catch problems before they became disasters. It didn't. An accident happened in another state. A driver pushed past exhaustion. A family never made it home. Investigations followed. Emails were pulled. Decisions traced. Names attached. Daniel's wasn't the loudest, but it was there. Clear. Documented. Impossible to deny. The company released a statement expressing sympathy and cooperation. Then they let him go. What followed was quieter than he expected. No shouting. No courtroom drama. Just weeks of interviews that went nowhere, calls that stopped being returned, savings drained by legal consultations and silence. The house sold quickly. Too quickly. Daniel packed what fit in his car and told himself it was temporary. It wasn't. The night he slept outside for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt disbelief. The concrete was cold, but not unbearable. What hurt was realizing how easily the city continued without him. Morning came. People stepped around him. No one asked questions. Hunger rewired his thinking. Cold taught him patience. Shame learned to sit quietly in the background, never leaving, never speaking unless invited. That was where he met Evelyn. She stood outside the library most mornings, collecting cans and bottles in a battered cart. She was in her late 50s, her hair always pulled back, her movements steady and deliberate. She greeted the security guard every day by name. She noticed Daniel because he still said, "Excuse me," when people walked too close. One morning, she set a granola bar next to him and kept moving. "Library opens at 9, she said without stopping. "Bathrooms are clean." Daniel nodded, embarrassed by how much that small kindness mattered. Over time, they talked. Not about the past. About the present. Where to get warm. Which days the church served hot meals. Which corners flooded when it rained. Evelyn had lived this way for years, after medical bills swallowed everything she had. She didn't romanticize it. She didn't complain either. She just adapted. Daniel listened more than he spoke. For the first time in decades, he wasn't responsible for fixing anything. He was just there. Winter arrived early. One night, Evelyn didn't show up. Daniel waited, uneasy. The next day, he found out she'd been taken to the hospital after collapsing from exhaustion. No insurance. No safety net. Just bills waiting to happen. Something shifted inside him. Daniel reached out to a former colleague he hadn't spoken to since the fallout. Not for sympathy. For work. Any work. The position offered was temporary, behind the scenes, far from decision-making power. The pay was modest. The conditions strict. No mistakes tolerated. Daniel accepted without hesitation. He didn't rush back into comfort. He stayed near the library, splitting his time between work and helping Evelyn recover when she returned, weaker but still smiling. When he finally rented a small room, it felt strange to lock a door again. The quiet wasn't empty this time. It was earned. Months later, Daniel walked past his old house. New owners. New lights. New life. He didn't stop. He didn't need to. He understood now that success had once given him distance from consequences, from people, from himself. Losing it forced him to stand close to reality, to feel weight, to see faces he had ignored. True wealth, he realized, wasn't security or control. It was responsibility, carried honestly, and connection, offered without expectation. The city still smelled different before sunrise. But now, Daniel noticed it.